The morning sun rose over Dallas, Texas, and inside a luxury restaurant called the Grand Oak, everything looked perfect: clean floors, shining glass, and quiet music playing in the background. Rich people sat at their tables talking softly, while workers moved fast to keep everything in order. At the center of it all was Jack Carter, a millionaire known across the city for his sharp business deals and cold attitude. He walked into the restaurant like he owned the air people were breathing. His expensive suit, his slow steps, and his serious face made everyone notice him immediately. Even the manager quickly rushed forward to greet him. Jack did not smile. He simply raised his hand slightly, showing he wanted a table at the best spot. Everyone understood without words. He always got what he wanted. At the far side of the restaurant stood Emma, a young waitress in her early 20s. She had been working since morning without rest. Her life was not easy. Every day she worked to support her younger brother Ben and her mother Sarah back in Springfield, Missouri. Bills were always waiting, and she had learned to carry responsibility far beyond her age. Emma walked over to Jack's table with calm steps, holding her small notepad. She greeted him politely and waited to take his order. Jack looked at her from head to toe, as if she was not important. Then he spoke in a rude tone, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. He complained about the service before she even had a chance to respond properly. He acted like her time meant nothing. Emma stayed calm. She had faced worse in life, so she did not react. She simply nodded and said she would take care of everything. Jack leaned back in his chair and continued talking to his business partner. He mentioned things about people in service jobs, saying they never understood real success. His words were sharp, and some customers looked uncomfortable, but nobody spoke up. Emma turned to leave, but as she walked away, she accidentally heard part of Jack's conversation. He mentioned a name from the past, a place she had not heard in years: Springfield, Missouri. Her steps slowed for a moment. Her heart beat a little faster, but she did not turn back. Jack did not notice her reaction. He simply took a sip of his drink, confident and careless. But Emma's mind was no longer calm. That name had opened something she thought was long buried. And then, from Jack's table, one more sentence was spoken that made Emma freeze in place, because it was something only someone from her deepest past would ever recognize. Emma stood near the service station holding a tray, but her mind was far away from the busy sounds of the Grand Oak. The name Springfield, Missouri, kept repeating in her thoughts like an old bell, ringing in her head. She remembered nights when things were hard, when her mother Sarah struggled to keep food on the table, and when her younger brother Ben would sleep without dinner sometimes so she could eat. At Jack Carter's table, the mood had changed. Jack was still talking, still acting confident, but something about Emma's reaction made him more alert. He leaned forward slightly, his voice lower now as he spoke again about Springfield, Missouri, this time with more detail, mentioning an old business project his family once had there. Emma's hands tightened around the tray. That detail did not match anything she expected to hear in a place like this. Springfield was not just a city for her. It was tied to memories she never shared with anyone at work. Jack continued speaking, not realizing every word was pulling something deeper out of Emma's past. He mentioned his grandmother Rose, saying she had spent time in a small community outreach center years ago, helping families in need. Emma felt her breath slow. Her eyes lowered for a moment as a memory came back. A kind elderly woman from her childhood who used to bring food and books to struggling children. That woman had been called Rose. Emma had never forgotten her face. Jack noticed the change in Emma's posture. He stopped talking and studied her more closely. For the first time, his confidence slipped just a little, replaced by confusion. Emma finally spoke softly, asking him a question about Rose, her voice careful, almost unsure. Jack answered, but as he spoke, the connection became clearer to him too. The timeline, the details, even the small habits of the stories they were sharing were matching in a way that made the air feel heavier. The restaurant noise seemed to fade into the background. It was no longer just a normal workday. Something deeper was unfolding between them, something neither of them had expected when the morning began. Jack's expression changed slowly as realization started to build inside him. The same city, the same woman from his grandmother's past, and the same quiet strength in front of him were no longer separate pieces. Emma slowly lifted her eyes, calm even in the middle of his words. Jack Carter noticed something in her expression he hadn't seen before. Not fear, not anger, but the quiet certainty of someone who had already survived a moment like this once before, and was now about to make him regret ever bringing it back.